Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the final part, the final section. I won't say the final countdown. We'll start singing it. We have two more talks for you. So we're going to start off with a talk from Richa and Julie from our finance team. And then we have the closing keynote after that from our CEO, Tom Blomfield, which will be followed by a short Q&A. So thank you. Welcome, Julie and Richa.
Hi, I'm Julie. This is Richa.
Yeah. Hi.
Yes. We're from the finance team, so we'll get started.
Yeah.
Cool. So what do we do as a finance team? We try to make money work for Monzo. And what does that mean exactly? So I'll let you read this tweet. So it's pretty accurate. We're the third and fifth finance people in the finance team that's joined. And it's actually, even though we've grown to 30 people, it's still not too far off what we do day to day today.
So as this implies as well, we do everything to do with forecasting, fundraising, tax strategy, all our numbers. We have data scientists in our team as well as engineers. And we look at our internal banking ledgers, all our systems. And also, as a bank, as you can expect, we have a heavy load of regulatory reporting as well, and just making sure we're always on top of our daily capital and liquidity and everything that comes with that, basically, as well.
Cool. So what's consumed the last 6 months of our time, or specifically Richa's time?
So this is our annual report, which we launched on Thursday, which I'm not sure if you guys have seen yet. But there was a little bit of questions on our community forum when we would actually release this. And I just wanted to clarify kind of in terms of timings, what we'd look to do. We usually release our report end of June, early July-ish. And this is because that's our deadline for what we submitted to our regulators. And because we are putting this information to our regulators, we actually, as an internal choice, we also just like to publish it online for full transparency at the same time, just as a good practice as we do with most things as well. So a little bit of a poll because it's only been about 2 days, I think, but how many pages do you think is our annual report? Does anyone want to have a guess? 92. Obviously from a reader. Yeah, exactly. So our annual report was actually 92 pages this year, which is painfully in my memory now from having to read every single page so many times. So a little bit of how many pages is annual reports for other banks out there, which I did a little bit of just like 6 as a comparison to see. Now, this isn't a real fair comparison either because all of these banks are listed banks, which means that the regulation on them is a lot more, which means there's a lot more that they have to include in the annual report. But this is just to kind of show how much information is actually contained in these documents that you can get out of it. And it's also just to say that, I guess in our growth journey as well, this is kind of what we're probably going to head towards, but we're going to try and do it in a Monzo way. As we have more regulation, et cetera, we're going to have to try and balance the readability of what we put online, but also balance that with what regulators and regulations actually expect for us to put in the document, which is going to be a key challenge for us. So how do we actually do annual report at Monzo? So I thought I'd give a little bit behind the scenes look as to actually what goes into preparing this report and kind of what we did over the past 6 months. So this is kind of very easily broken down into 4 broad sections. First being like ideas and content for the report. Second being the writing, then fact-checking exercise, as I call it, and the final result of what actually went on our website. So just to start with ideas and content. So we started this process off in January this year, which was basically just to all get in a room, huddle together, and say, what do we actually want to say in our report this year, which is an interesting topic that led to a lot of debate because we're not a listed bank, which means the regulation on us in terms of what we put our annual report isn't as heavy. So it was a little bit of internal debate as to what we actually want to put out there, what we think our customers want to see, what our investors want to see. So we kind of, I guess the results of all that brainstorming was that we really wanted to improve the annual report from last year, which was quite bare bones and it was quite simple report, and actually give a lot more information to our customers that would give you a little bit more of a peek into how we operate as a bank, how everything works. So I guess I'll give you a quick summary of kind of the 7 sections that we decided to put in new this year. One of which was actually just a little bit of our history, timeline of who we are and what we are. This is especially important because we've grown so much in the year and we've got a lot more customers, a lot more users, that this is something that we thought people would actually be interested in, see how far we've come. A little bit on our team, like who makes up our board, who makes up our executive team. It's very important for people to know actually who they're trusting to run this bank. We obviously included a review from Tom, as we did last year as well, which was just a summary from him of where his mind is at as to how he thinks we did last year, where he thinks we're going as well. Newly, we included a review from Gary, our chairman, which I think was in for Q&A a bit earlier today as well, and he joined us new this year. And then one of the key bits that we wanted to put in was actually a summary of our business model and strategy, as well as a quick summary of our performance this year. What we found from last year's report was it was quite hard for our customers or our investors to actually get a sense of where we're at, what our kind of summary of our model is, what we want to do in the future, as well as just how we did in the year. It's quite hard to get that flavor from the back half of the report, which is a lot of numbers, a lot of tables. So that was something we wanted to put in and make it easy to read, as well as a little bit of a peek into our internal people, how we manage our internal culture, which is a lot more important now as well, because we've almost reached about 900 people inside the company. A little peek into how we manage our community, which is a big part of why everyone's here today, as well as one of the key things we wanted to do this year is also include a summary of how we approach governance, which I know Susan did a talk this morning about as well, and how we do our internal risk management, which is also key for us to be fully transparent about. So one of the key things actually that came out of the content that we wanted to put in was that we wanted to make the report as readable as possible and also try and include within it our Monzo tone of voice, which you may have seen on our blog, which is quite a big thing for us. We also apply it to other legal documents like our terms and conditions, which is quite hard to do for an annual report in a way. But we tried to do that as much as we could this year, and this is something we hope to do every year and make it as readable as we can for people. Actually, this is also a section where I'd love some feedback into if anyone thinks of anything that they'd like to see in the report, a little bit more detail on specific sections or just a whole different peek into Monzo. Please let us know in the community forum as well. It'd be great to hear from people. So now on to the writing bit of it. This was obviously a very busy process, specifically for all the numbers in the back half of the report, which is a long process, but I'm glad it's behind us in time for summer. And this is also something that we heavily involved our writing team in as well, just to make sure we were complying with a Monzo tone of voice as well in our writing. To give you an idea, we had lots of teams actually actively contributing to the writing of the report. You heard from Susan earlier from corporate governance, but we had the people team, we had our community team write a bit of it, our risk team, but a lot of other people. So it wasn't just a finance-focused report as well. So now on to the fact-checking part of the exercise, which, as I call it, is also refers to our external audit process. So as most you might know, is that per regulation, we're required to have an external auditor. Our external auditor is actually Ernst & Young, and they came in about March time and were with us about 3 to 4 months of this year, just going through their audit procedures on all our financial statements, all our numbers. And they're also required to read the full report, including like the front half, just to make sure that it does give a true and fair view of our business. So this was a very big, laborious exercise, as you can imagine. But it's truly important because that's how you get comfort as well, that the numbers we're quoting and the numbers we're putting out there as our results are as they should be. So I'm not sure actually if people have noticed, but now our external auditors also have a huge section in the middle of our annual report, which they sign off at as well, which is much longer than it used to be. It's about 10 to 12 pages now, I think. But if you want to have a read, kind of gives you a view of what they think of different areas that they looked at as well. So this was the fact-checking, external fact-checking. Then we obviously went through our internal process as well, which is getting in touch with all the executive members of our team, making sure they're comfortable. If there's anything else they want to put in, our board members as well were given an opportunity to comment, to review, just making sure everyone was comfortable with the overall message in the report. And then the final result, which was on the website on Thursday, which is a huge project that our design team actually helped us with to make sure it looks and feels like Monzo and it looks great and it's a bit easy to read, not too many words and pages and numbers on one page, and all those things. And I think that they did a great job of it. And we've also put a web version on as well now after Thursday, so it's easier to look on your phone, etc. Cool. So we'll move on to how did Monzo do this past year and a little bit of detail into that. So this was also in our annual report, but just to kind of bring a little highlights here today, we had about 1 million new customers in the financial year up to February 2019. And just for a little bit more context, as of today, we're about at 2.3 million customers.
Something we're super proud of is our NPS score, which basically tells us how happy our customers are with us. So we've gone from 70 to 80, and it's been holding steady around the 80 mark for the last few months. It's pretty amazing when you think about some banks have a negative NPS score.
Our customer deposits obviously have increased by about 400 million in the financial year. And again, as of today, it's sitting at about 600 million as well.
And lastly, we more than doubled our headcount, or the number of employees that we have internally, 300 to 713, and we're actually getting close to 1,000 now, which is pretty amazing. Yeah. Okay. Should I get the clicker? Yeah, I did this. Cool, thanks. So now that we've talked about all the good things, I wanted to go through the numbers a little bit more. You might have seen some of the headlines that came out. So last financial year, we lost £30 million, and we got loads of negative press on that. So this financial year, we were like super prepared for all the criticism that we would get. So stuff like this about the mounting losses. The articles actually haven't been that bad. So we do have mounting losses. We went from 30 to 47 million pounds loss in a year. But we just wanted to dig in a little bit deeper beyond that sort of headline number and give you some more context on what's really been happening. So this is just a quick graph to show you what our revenue trend has been like, which is a dark blue at the top, and then the expenses growth at the bottom. So if you did read the FT article, we talked a lot about wanting to be here for the long haul, which means that we want to make decisions today that make sure we're successful for many years into the future and that we're not taking shortcuts to profitability. So we're making a lot of very conscious decisions to invest in our product and our people. And as other speakers have said, we're in a highly regulated environment. So that means that as a company, we have a lot of costs and just operational things that we have to take care of that other companies might not have to bear. And we don't intend to ever get into trouble with our regulators, so we're focusing on our governance and our control structures as much as we are on our products and our platform. But back to the numbers, you can see that while our net loss grew, we have been steadily growing our revenue. For the month of February 19, which is when the financial statements are based on, we were under £30 million of annualized revenue run rate, and now May, June, only a few months later, we've already blown past 40 million annualized revenue, so that is growing. Of course, the costs are growing faster than the revenue. So again, just to give you a bit more color on what's actually happening there, just a quick graph. So the main categories of things that we're spending on really is the personnel, our account servicing costs, customer onboarding and customer acquisition, and lastly, our operating costs. So our personnel, which is all our salaries, options, expenses, taxes, and benefits and things, that really is the majority of our costs. From there, we have the account servicing, so that's what we call variable, anything that we need to spend on to service our customers, so 24/7 customer support, card transaction costs, even our back-end like web servers. So these are all things that will grow directly in line with the number of customers we have, so we expect that to keep going as we get more customers on board. The third one, account onboarding and acquisition. So those are all the marketing costs that we spend to get new customers, and onboarding being what we need to do to get a customer signed up. So things like distributing your first card or the ID verification checks that we have to do. And then the smallest bit you can see are the operating costs, which people also call our fixed costs. So things like our rent, technology subscriptions, legal consulting. You can see that actually makes up a really small part of our cost base. Yeah. And of course, a Monzo finance talk won't be complete without talking about contribution margin, or what we affectionately call our customer unit economics. For those who don't know, a contribution margin is the profit or loss that we make from each active customer that we have. And just to recap, I don't know how many people have been following us since the prepaid days. It's something we talk a lot about internally and in the media as well. But as a recap, we peaked at about a £65 per customer loss in September 2017, which is back when we were still on the prepaid program. By the time we got to February 2018, we were migrating customers onto the current account, and we actually were able to half that to £30. Last October, November was a big milestone for the company. We actually broke even on a customer basis. So we've been going steady, positive contribution margin for the last few months. So in the financial reports, you can see that we hit £2, and we're now May, June, sort of £5-6 positive per customer. So all good news. Cool. How were we able to do this? So to be fair, we focused a lot on scaling costs for the last few months. So when we were on the prepaid, we had to use a few third-party suppliers, which we don't need to use anymore now that we're doing the in-house current accounts. We've also spent the last few months negotiating on a lot of contracts to get better pricing with our suppliers. As our volumes are growing, we have more market power to do this. And on the flip side, what we've also seen is the revenue growing. So we're seeing the early days of lending revenue generation come through to help push this up a little bit as well, which is quite exciting. So a bit of a poll, since you're all investors, we wanted to find out why you invested. Put your hands up if you did just simply because you love the product. I was hoping for more hands there, but okay, good enough, yeah.
So put your hands up if you invested because our amazing team made it just so easy and simple for you to do so, that you did so without even realizing that you did.
Yeah.
Honesty.
Put money into a pot, a coin jar, and then pop that into sugar.
Yeah. Good, I think. Put your hands up if you did it simply because you just want a financial return on your investment. More hands than the product. Okay, guess that's why you're at this talk. Keep your hands up if you think you'll get your financial return in the next 10 years. 5 years? Next 2 years? Amazing. I don't know if that's a sign of faith in us or just if you're in with us on our long-term strategy. So I guess from here we wanted to break into what is Monzo doing next. And so there's been a lot of talk, a lot of companies like Uber and Lyft and Slack. So this question's been popping up quite a lot lately, for better or worse, which is, when is it going to be IPO time? And I just wanted to clear up, no, that is not happening quite yet. So I think Tom's talking after this. You can hassle him with more questions, but no. So where are we actually going? So we've talked a little bit about our long-term strategy, wanting to be here for the long haul and not taking those profitability shortcuts. What does that actually translate into today? We've had a lot of internal discussions about what we want to focus on and the things that we want to start making real headway in over the rest of this year. So some of the 4, main pillars that we're thinking about. One is customer growth. So we've earmarked about £25 to £30 million on marketing and customer acquisition this year. So our organic growth has always been strong. We've typically acquired about 60,000 new customers a month with basically no efforts. With the spunky new TV ads that hopefully you've all seen, we've actually blown through 200,000 new customers for the last couple of months each. And it's been at quite, overall, with all our advertising and different efforts that we're doing, our customer acquisition cost has been quite low, about £10 per customer. And that's pretty amazing when you think about some banks spend up to £150 to acquire each new customer that they have. Why are we doing this? Mostly just a little bit of economy of scale, but also as we decide to roll out new products, obviously we want a meaningful customer base to engage with our new products. which brings us onto the second bit. So creating products. We've been working on our lending business for quite a while. We've had overdrafts out for the last year or so. We're also ramping up loans quite a lot. Unfortunately, because of the way some of the accounting treatment rules work, it means that as you grow your lending book, we'll probably take a bit of a hit on our financial P&L over the next year, but that's something that we can grow out of as our lending book really grows and scales, so we're not too worried about that. The other things that we're working on, you might have heard about earlier today, Monzo Plus, Monzo Points, so we're really excited about getting those out. And also just optimizing our marketplace. So we've got our energy and savings partners out there, so we're hoping to build that out a little bit more throughout the rest of the year. The third thing is business banking. So we weren't successful in getting one of the RBS grants earlier this year, but this is something that we feel we can make true headway in the market and offer something a little bit nicer than some of our competitors. There is a little bit of complexity around business banking, more so than retail banking. So like we do with all our products, we'll get something out, we're going to trial it with a few thousand customers over the next couple of months, and we'll just keep learning and iterating and hopefully get something out in the medium-ish term, no timelines, that hopefully fills in the gaps that we're seeing in the market today. And the last bit, which you've probably seen a lot of headlines about, is our international expansion. So we officially announced earlier this month that we're going to be doing our first foray overseas, which is with our US prepaid top-up card. Again, not doing a full big bang because there's a lot we need to learn. There's a lot of differences between the UK-US market in terms of competition, regulatory things, and what customers want. So we need to learn our product fit there. And again, because it is our first international product expansion, I think Monzo needs to learn a lot about how to operate as a global company and not just a domestic company. So we want to make sure, again, that we learn, we iterate, and that we do things right as we grow globally. So all in all, these are some pretty heavy initiatives that we are working on. They require a lot of upfront investment, both financial and staffing. And so obviously our hope is that the products will take off towards the end of the year, we'll start generating revenue from there. But all in all, we do plan to invest a lot of costs into these so that we can be successful for the long term, which means we are facing probably a much bigger financial loss over the next year than even today. And I just wanted to assure you, these are all sort of like deliberate, conscious strategic decisions that we've made. Our aim is to move fast and in control. I don't know if some speakers have been quoting that quite a bit today, but that is how we want to operate. And we are ultimately focused on the long-term success, not just short-term profitability. So hopefully you all agree in that ride with us, and that's part of why you invested. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Cool. Thank you.